What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Axe Creation. This is the third of 5 lessons for the True Fire series. The link is down below, so definitely please check that out. Today we're going to be talking about breaking out of our pentatonic boxes. And the pentatonic boxes are a great learning tool because it allows you to play the scale in different positions, all up and down the fretboard. But what happens is all the great licks that we learn are based off those shapes, and we tend to get stuck in them. So when we go to play in a different key, instead of looking down our guitar, for example, A minor, a lot of people know by frets that we play. We're very visual players, especially on the guitar. So we know that our pattern, we can just look down and play A5, A5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. And we get stuck looking at those frets only. So when we go to play over maybe a different key, or a key you're not familiar in, it's tough for us because we're so visually used to looking at a certain box, a certain fret, and a certain pattern. So what I'm going to talk about today is just a way to help you re-visualize your fretboard and your scale patterns. Now, this is only one way, but I find that it really helped me break out of the boxes. So when we look at our pentatonic scale, it's only 5 notes, and there's only actually 2 ways you can play this scale. So if I go into our proverbial box 1, I'm going to be in D minor, by the way, so 10th position, low string, our box 1. Right? Everybody knows box 1. So 5 notes. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should know the intervals of this pattern of our scale, right? We're playing a root, a minor third, which implies the minor chord. You're playing a 4th, a 5th, and a minor 7 or a flat 7. So when we look at these notes, we're actually just playing a minor arpeggio. Right? And we just have that 4th or the 11th put in. So like I said, we have 2 ways we can play this scale. If we're playing the root note on our first finger, that means our hand is going to be in front of, and we're going to be playing in front of the root note. So we have our box 1 pattern, right? Our fingering, our 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3. But if we land on our root note, say on our ring finger, our 3rd finger, this will be pattern number 2. You have 10, 8, 10, 7, 10, and then our root note is on the next string. So our pattern goes 1 more string. So those are the only 2 ways you can play a minor pentatonic scale. And this is how I want to approach this. This is how we're going to break free. We're going to play octave to octave, and it'll force you to learn where all these root notes are. And wherever you land on, hopefully you can visualize this 1 octave rather than trying to figure out what box you're supposed to be playing in. Okay, so let's move our D out of here, and we're going to move it down to the 5th fret of our A string. Right, and I put a little lick together just to explore where these patterns and octaves are across the fretboard, just to get you used to this idea. So if we're in here, right, ring finger, we're going to be playing pattern 2, because we're going to be based off our ring finger. So we have. So let me just play you the lick, and we'll kind of break down the areas and the patterns, and then I'll talk about the patterns a little bit more. Okay, so this is just a free lick. It's nothing crazy here. So the tab for this is going to be down the link in the description. And let me explain what I just did. Like I said, it's just a lick to explore these patterns. So here we have pattern 2, and that's going to slide up. Same notes, just pattern number 1. Alright, now we're in pattern number 2. Then we're here on our root note. Now we're going to go up pattern number 1. Slide up in the 10th position. Now we're in our box 1, but when you look at that, it's really just pattern 2. Now don't let the string change, the string shift change, because the tuning of the instrument, all of our patterns kind of shift up a fret when we get to that, when we cross the G and B string territory, right? land on my D, pattern number 1. Pattern number 1. And now I know I'm here, if I descend, I'm in pattern number 2 again. So that's how this exercise kind of works. You're taking chunks and just moving through them. But the really fun thing about this is that all these patterns run into each other. Pattern 1 runs into pattern 2. Pattern 2 runs into pattern 1. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it more of a horizontal pentatonic playing, which some of you are probably familiar with, where you kind of do something like that. But these patterns are connected. So I can play pattern 2, and then play pattern 2 again. Or I can play pattern 1, stay on my first finger, and play pattern 1 again. So these patterns are interconnected like that, and like I said, they run into each other. So pattern 1, I'm on my third finger, now I can play pattern 2. Or I can play pattern 2, and then on my first finger, and I play pattern 1. So like I said, there's only 2 ways you can play a pentatonic scale, and if you start to visualize your scales like this, you play octave to octave, you learn the intervals of the scale, and now you can really play chord tones and play octave to octave. And that's the most important part, rather than looking at your scales as this 6-string chunk that I have to play through, and then visually connect it in that sense. Because usually any great melody is within an octave. So there's no reason to span 3 octaves when I play a scale. It's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary amount of work. Alright? And this is really useful if you're playing the blues, because if you can go back and forth between your major and minor in one position, and it's really helpful. Or if you're changing keys, which I know is really hard for a lot of players. You know, for example, if I'm playing in A minor, and then maybe the chord changes to something real fusiony like an F minor. And instead of trying to figure out what boxes I have to lay over each other to play here and to connect them smoothly, I know, it's like, okay, well, I know where my A's are, and I know where my F's are. So if I can play A minor pentatonic, right, and now I know my chord change is coming up to F, well, I know F is here, if I slide up, makes those changes a little easier because you can visualize where your root note is of the new chord change, new chord change, and you can just apply these small little patterns to exactly where you are on the guitar. All right? So I hope this helps you break out of your boxes. In the tabs for the lesson, there'll be a connecting idea, and I'll break down. There'll be more ideas tabbed out for you to see how these all connect. All right. So as always, let me know what you come up with, and until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.